the first wrist stretch is with the fingers facing back. Yeah, finger facing towards the body. And now I start to shift weight towards my heels. And now I go into the stretch. I can stay there and hold for seconds, or I can also do light dynamic pulses and hold, for example, the last rep. Another nice variation in the same position, which then also goes a bit more into the forearm, is when you you bend the elbows, and the goal is to reach the knees with your elbow. So you can lift the palm until the first knuckle joints, but they should stay on the floor. And the same is here, I can work with small pulses or also do a full repetition, or I just hold it for time and go into the stretch. I also make sure that this point is still on the floor when you go into the stretch and do not lift it up. Okay, the next one is I turn the hands outwards, but not as far as in the first one, just like this. So the fingers are pointing to the side of the knee. And now I can do the same thing. I lean back towards my heel or heels, and now I feel the stretch in a different angle. I also can go a bit more to one or the other side and just stay there. Okay, the next one is with fingers facing to each other or towards each other. So we don't turn the hands out, but we turn them in, place them, and then it's exactly the same thing. I lean back towards my heels and go into the stretch. The next one is with the fingers facing or pointing forward, and now we don't go towards the heels, but we go to the front, so we shift the shoulders far over the wrists. And you can push also the ball of the hand into the floor. Just like this. The next one then is with the fingers pointing to the sides. And what you can do here is just leaning towards one side, staying there, and going to the other side. You also can play a bit to the front and to the back, and just also figure out some points, some areas where you feel in a stretch. Yeah, not all of these stretches will feel the same for you. Yeah, in some you feel more stretch, in some less. For the next one, we go on the back of the hands. First, fingers facing each other, pointing to the inside. Make sure you really extend the elbow and rotate it to the front. And then the same thing, I just shift the weight towards one side and try to keep the wrist on the floor. Yeah, don't do this, but try to stay here and just lean to the other side. Also here you can play a little bit with shifting to the front or to the back. For the next one, we turn the hands and the fingers are pointing to the outside, and then the same thing here, just stay there. And it's also really helpful if you wait a few seconds sometimes in a stretch, because sometimes you don't feel directly that there is something or that there is a nice stretch. Sometimes it needs some time to feel it. You also then can again shift weight to the left or the right side. For the next, we bring the fingers back, so fingers pointing towards the body. The first step here is just with an open hand, and if this is super easy, you can try to close the hand a little bit. First roll only the fingers, so you have this position, and still try to extend the elbows and rotate them forward. And now I go forward and back, and also here feel the stretch. And if this is also super easy, you can try to make a fist, and then it's getting, on my right side for example, I feel a huge stretch, really intense one, and it's hard to close the fist. On the left it's better.